Hello, my fellow exiles. I recently reached end game with my Bleed Huntress build that can be played on either Huntress Ascendancy. And while there were some learning curves to figuring it out, I am very confident I have it dialed in for you guys, and I'm ready to share my campaign build guide for the Bleed Huntress with all of you. Now, without any further rambling, let's get right into it and just briefly go over how Bleed works in Path of Exile 2. Bleed does physical damage over time. Only damage to life can cause bleeding. Physical damage from a hit is what contributes to bleed magnitude. So you want to hit as hard as you can and with 0% of your damage converted to elemental damage. Blood loss is the dark red portion of a monster's life bar, and it's how much bleed damage they have taken throughout the fight. So their current life is equal to the back part of that bar. And this is important for some of our skills, and I will bring it up and talk more about it later. Now, let's talk about what kind of gear you should be looking for throughout the campaign. The most important piece of gear is your weapon. You need a spear with the highest physical damage you can find. Something in the ballpark of 80 to 150 would last you the entire campaign. Look for modifiers like percent increase physical damage and adds a flat number of physical damage. Also, make sure to socket an iron rune in your spear and use blacksmith whetstones to increase its quality. If you're really unlucky and can't find or craft a spear like this, then don't be afraid to purchase one from the trade website. It will make the build feel a billion times better. Next up, let's talk about the only unique I would recommend keeping your eye out for or even purchasing it from the trade website. This is the Venopuncture Iron Ring. It comes with a big strength bonus, especially in the early game, that will make equipping all of your red gems a lot easier. And it has two great bleeding modifiers on it. The downside is every time your character gets a bleed debuff, you will also get the chill debuff. We mitigate this by using a staunching charm. Now, for the rest of your gear, there are only a few modifiers I would recommend keeping an eye out for, so let me list them out for you. Movement speed on shoes, spirit on an amulet or chest piece. Your belt should be a utility belt if possible. Prioritize elemental resistance, life, and evasion in that order. Projectile skill levels on your amulet. They're good, but not that important. And melee skill levels on your amulet or gloves. Again, it's good, but not that important. In this section, I'm going to tell you what skill gems to use and what support gems to support them with at the start of the campaign, as well as which supports to add or replace as you progress through the game. Throughout the campaign, the skill gems we will be using are Spear Throw, Rake, Disengage, Blood Hunt, Bloodhound's Mark, Herald of Blood, and Combat Frenzy. Add these support gems when you only have access to level 1 support gems and no lesser jeweler orbs. So this is the very beginning of the game. On Spear Throw, we use Lacerate and Retreat. On Rake, we use Stomping Ground. This is only useful in the early game before monster life outscales our strength modifier, and we use Brutality. On Disengage, in the early game we don't use anything. On Blood Hunt, we use Execute and Bloodlust. On Bloodhound's Mark, we use Fire and Fusion. And on Herald of Blood, we use Magnified Effect. Once you reach the part of the campaign where you have access to level 2 support gems and have come across at least one lesser jeweler's orb, you can start to transition to this setup. On Spear Throw, you're going to use Lacerate, Retreat, and Pin. Only equip Pin, however, if you also have your second Spirit Gem and are using Combat Frenzy. And then on Rake, we're going to use Brutality, Ancestral Call, and Heavy Swing. Ancestral Call is a personal favorite of mine. And then on disengage, you're going to use ingenuity, which really helps this ability start to feel cozier by lowering its CD just a tad. On blood hunt, we're still using execute and bloodlust. On bloodhounds mark, still using fire infusion. On herald of blood, still using magnified effect. And then if you have your second spirit gem, you want to use combat frenzy with profusion. And then the final step of the build that you should be reaching for towards the end of the campaign after you have access to level 3 support gems should look like this. Spear throw, you want to use lacerate, pin, and heft. On rake, you want to use brutality, ancestral call, and deep cuts. On disengage, you're still just using ingenuity. On blood hunt, still execute and bloodlust. On bloodhound's mark, you're using fire infusion and physical mastery. On herald of blood, you're using hemocrystals and deadly herald. And on combat frenzy, you are using profusion and cannibalism. Now, let's discuss the passive tree. During the campaign, there is only one thing you need to worry about on your passive tree: damage. Therefore, that is all we have selected in this tree throughout the campaign. As you level in the end game, you will start to fill out your defenses, but while you're still in the campaign, just follow this tree and you will blast through the content. All right, now let's go ahead and go into the passive tree in its entirety, and I'm going to talk about the route we take. So from the start, you're going to grab the attack damage nodes and then move into the section of hybrid nodes right here. Stalk and leap, this is something to remember. This is one of the reasons why you're going to want to be playing a hybrid between melee and ranged, going back and forth to make sure you're getting the 30% increase from this notable. At least every 8 seconds, you need to be going back and forth between melee or ranged. And then you're going to come down at the start. You should go ahead and grab these damage nodes right here. This will also give your projectiles a chance to fork. And then in the tree, you're going to go down and grab the stuff on the right here first. So you'll come down. These are some nice attack damage and physical damage nodes. Keep coming down. You get your first jewel socket. And then keep coming down. Attack damage nodes right here. And then come around the corner and complete your speed run to Dance with Death. This will allow you to remove your parry shield entirely. You don't have to play with the shield anymore, and instead you're going to get a big 25% more skill speed while your offhand is empty. This is big, makes it feel really comfy and nice, and parry doesn't really feel that great anyways, in my opinion. And then go ahead and pick up these spear nodes right here. Big spear damage, attack speed. This section's great. And then you'll come back up here, and we'll work this way from this node where we stopped earlier. And also on all these small, on all the attribute travel nodes, just you want to primarily get dex, but get as much strength and int as you need for your current support gems or gear. So dex is what you primarily want, but get as much strength as you need and intelligence. So we move this way, go ahead and get this attack damage section right here, and then keep going on over and go ahead and grab these bleed nodes right here. Go ahead and grab these bleed nodes right here, and then right here we're going to go ahead and come down, and there's a nice little section of increased damage and also increased chance to inflict ailments with one-hand weapons. This node, along with some of these, like inflict bleeding or chance to inflict bleeding on hit. Basically, the goal here is to get your spear throw to have, where is it? To have at least a 100% chance to inflict bleeding on hit. That way, your spear throw will bleed every single time you throw your spear. It's really important. So this is a great node to help with that, and it's got a big 25% increased damage. Keep coming down. This will be your second jewel slot right here. And you can come over, get some more game. Oh, my game was frozen for a second. There we go. And you come over, get some more bleed nodes here. Great section. Keep coming down. Another bleed node section right here. This is great. And then another projectile section right here, which these will give you a chance to pierce. So you've got some piercing from right here, and from up here you've got some fork. So your spear throw is going to be hitting a bunch of people, even though it's just a single spear throw. Plus, when you're consuming a frenzy charge, it's going to be creating a big explosion. It's really great. And yeah, this is the passive tree. Again, this is like full glass cannon passive tree. All you need is damage in the campaign. Once you get to end game and in future iterations of this passive tree, when I make build update videos, there's going to be a lot more defenses invested in the passive tree. So for now, it's just glass cannon. That'll change in the future, but enjoy this, and I hope it works for you. The ascendancy you choose for the Huntress does not matter for this version of the build. I chose Ritualist because I wanted to use Blood Boil. Spoiler, it's so bad, I don't even know if it's working or if it's bugged. So if you want to play crit in the end game, then go Amazon. If you want to play exactly what I chose and you want to follow my future guides, then choose Ritualist. Ritualist still has some very solid value in its tree, and I don't really think it's going to make much of a difference later on which ascendancy you choose to play. So play what you want. So how does this build play? Well, this build definitely vibes with GGG's vision of the Huntress. It is a melee ranged hybrid character that dashes in and out with flashy finesse. It looks and feels amazing once you get used to the movement. You will open with Rake, dashing in and bleeding a decent size AoE around you. Rake does more damage when you dash from further away, so try to always use it from a distance. Then you disengage back out to range and start throwing spears. Your spears will pin enemies and give you frenzy charges thanks to the Combat Frenzy Spirit Gem. When you use Spear Throw with a frenzy charge, it will consume the charge to cause a large physical explosive AoE that can bleed and pin enemies itself. This is big damn and feels really good when it's happening. You want to make sure you are swapping between melee and ranged attacks at least once every 8 seconds to take advantage of passives and support gems that give you increased damage for doing so. When enemies die, they will pop Herald of Blood, which is supported by Hemocrystals, causing big explosions in the area, which will likely finish off other bleeding targets nearby and cause them to explode with another Herald of Blood proc and create more Hemocrystals. This feels really nice for clearing monster-dense areas. When you are fighting a rare monster or even a boss, you will want to use your Bloodhounds mark. This mark allows your bleed to build up heavy stun. In boss fights, if you keep this mark up consistently, you can get multiple stuns on a boss, no problem, depending on how long the fight takes you. You can reapply the mark right when the heavy stun happens and the monster falls over for 100% uptime. Now, let's talk about my favorite ability, Blood Hunt. This is our execute ability, and it's so much fun to use. You only want to use this ability on rare and unique monsters when they have 35% or less life remaining. The way this skill works is it has a base damage, but it also deals damage equal to 25% of the blood loss you have built up. That's the dark red portion of the monster's life bar. In addition, with the execute and bloodlust support gems, this ability makes for an awesome execute, and you can get some big damage with it on bosses if you are patient with it. Thanks so much for watching my first build guide for the Bleed Huntress. If you found this video helpful, then I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video. Expect future updates to this guide as I progress it through the end game and continue to build on its features. If you want to stay up to date with my Bleed Huntress build, then make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, but also go check out my Twitch channel as I will be streaming every single day and you can watch the build's progression live. Thanks again for watching. Peace!